Secret Service. Tell him I ain't the fortunate one. No, 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 no. FBI.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining me on this week's 172nd Air Wing Review. Today we have a Century Wings A-6E Intruder. This one is in the colors of the VA-35 Black Panthers, in the colors of the Carrier Air Wing 8 cruise that they had in 1978 aboard the USS Nimitz. Those of you that are Navy veterans or fans, feel free to correct me if I've botched any of that. I am obviously an Air Force veteran myself, so our unit designations are a little bit different, so pardon if I may have left out or omitted some important detail with how the Navy air groups work. Be that as it may, this is a 2007 release of the A-6 Intruder from Century Wings, and it's a special model because, for one thing, Century Wings doesn't appear to release these very often. I've come across exactly 2 in my collecting time. This is the second one that I have purchased. The first one, I actually had to buy it from France. I almost said in France, which would have been nicer, but no. I actually, I'll just level with you guys. I watched the movie of Flight of the Intruder. When I was a kid years and years ago, I read the book, but I wasn't really into model collecting at that point in life. As time and circumstances changed, I got into collecting, and I hate to say this because it makes it sound like I forgot the A-6 existed, but that's kind of what happened. I watched the Flight of the Intruder on one fateful day, and I was like, hey, I got to get that in my collection. So I went on eBay and I saw exactly one A-6 for sale, and it was from a seller in France. Now, to be completely clear about this, I didn't realize at the time that I was bidding that the model was in France. I basically clicked the bid now option, or whatever the instant purchase option was on eBay. I don't think it was to buy it now. I think it was make an offer, because I didn't, if memory serves, I didn't take delivery for a while. But basically I bought it as quickly as I could because it was the only one that was for sale at the time. And it set me back, I think with postage and international shipping, about a good $225. So this was 3 or 4 years ago, which meant spending that amount of money for a die-cast 1/72nd scale model was kind of an accomplishment. Nowadays, sadly, it's not too difficult to spend that much, even on brand new orders. I was actually doing some research on eBay, just looking at various availability and models, and I noticed that some of the F-22 releases have gone up to that level, and I don't even see any of the Caliber Wings F-16s from the Wave 1s on sale. And for more explanation on that, I have a discussion video uploaded to talk to that point and why the Wave 2s were so not in good state. But coming back to the Century Wings A6, I bought that one from a seller in France, as I said, and it took probably 2 months to get to me here in the US. And I have it, I'm glad I have it, but that just goes to show you how hard it is to get these things. A seller on a forum that I frequent, Model Hanger 3, was kind enough to offer his for sale at a reasonable price, so I jumped on it, and here it is. So thank you to Member Skunky from the Model Hanger 3 forum, much appreciated. And without his willingness to offer this model at a reasonable price, you would not be looking at it right now. So credit given, we can get to the details at hand. The A6 intruder has actually been around a very long time. It was first introduced in 1963 and of course served in basically every major US air war since then, starting with Vietnam, going to Libya, and then finally ending its career after Desert Storm in the early 1990s. The A6 was retired by the US Navy in 1997. However, the EA-6B variant would be used by the US Marine Corps all the way up to 2019, when it was replaced by the EA-18 Growler, which is a variant of the Super Hornet. So yeah, this airplane had a very long career and very storied career. Some of the footage that you see is of the aircraft as it was being flown in Vietnam, and back then things were basically different with how the way things are done now. Back in that time, there was no precision guided GPS bombing. There was no dial a coordinate and put it in the bomb, and the bomb would just guide itself there. The laser guided bombs did happen in Vietnam, but the Navy didn't use them. The US Air Force introduced the first generation of paveway guided laser guided bombs in the early 1970s. The Navy would take a little bit more time to get onto that bandwagon. But yeah, for the A6's career, it was basically essentially manually guided bombs, but it wasn't completely manual guided in the sense that we think of it. Obviously, pilots could just dump their bombs using the good old-fashioned pipper and drop method, but the A6 featured many avionics and computer systems which allowed the pilot and the bombardier navigator to drop ordnance on moving targets, hidden targets, using the radar to drop during bad weather, and various other technological ways of assisting with delivering payloads. So it was a very sophisticated airplane for its time, and obviously was the workhorse of the US Navy during the air war in every conflict since the mid-1960s, again starting with Southeast Asia. So this aircraft was powered by two J-52 engines. Many of you Skyhawk fans will remember that because it was an engine used in the later A-4E and F and the other alphabet soup variants of the A4, which is another airplane I'm going to get to on this channel one of these days. And the lead designer for this project, the two engineers that spearheaded the A-6E engineering effort, would actually move on to build a couple of somewhat more obscure vehicles like the Lunar Excursion Module and the F-14 Tomcat. That information might be tongue-in-cheek for some of you, but yeah, those are pretty important aviation-related aircraft. In the case of the Lunar Excursion Model, that's actually a spacecraft. So yeah, the people that designed the A6 knew what they were doing and moved on to very good things later on in their careers. So with that outlined, we'll shift right into the Century Wings model itself. So I'll just start off by saying I think it's a decent model. It's not perfect. There are some elements that could probably use some minor refinement, but all in all, I think it's a good representation of the A6 in a die-cast mold. So the good parts, the proportions of the A6 are pretty accurately modeled. I have seen one in person, and let me tell you, it's a very big airplane. You don't realize it until you maybe get some scale comparison of it, but the A6 is a big honking bird. This thing is it's pretty massive when you see it in person. So to me, I think the A6's aesthetics are decent. It wouldn't beat an F-14, but then again, that's not what it's designed to do, right? It's supposed to be a bomb truck. And for a bomb truck, I think it looks damn good. That's just me. What are your thoughts on the A6's aesthetics? I'd like to hear your thoughts and input on whether you think the A6 is quote unquote ugly. I've heard some pilots and some people describe it that way, but I don't personally agree. I think it looks pretty darn good for an attack airplane, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's not supposed to go Mach 2 and duke it out with MiGs, right? So, as far as aesthetics go, I think it looks pretty darn good. The weapons that you get with it, this is one of the strong points and the weak points. Century Wings does a really good job with modeling the accessories and painting them very well. Some of the other manufacturers tend to cut corners in like the look and feel of the bombs and the missiles, but Century Wings does a really good job of keeping the detail up to speed on their ordnance. I think they're some of the best in the die-cast segment right now. So the details look good. Some of the smaller stuff like the rescue icons and the warning labels and various things are very well done. Even with the contrast and sharpness turned up, it still doesn't really capture the detailed nature of what they've done to capture it. It's really done pretty darn well in my estimation. They've also done just the right amount of panel weathering. So the panels have some, as you can see, dark paint in them from the factory, I'm assuming. I don't believe the member who sold this to me did some weathering, but if not, I'll put a correction in the comment section. But as it comes, it's really well done. It's not overdone, it's not underdone. The modeling of the cockpit's pretty good too. You can see the ejection handles right here are very well modeled, so you can see them. There's one here for the pilot, the other side has the bombardier navigator, and I think it's really done well. The details like the look of the VA-35 insignia and the little Panther on the fuel tank, really well done. Again, I think it's a good model. So to me, it's worth the money, even if you do have to pay, unfortunately, a higher than comfortable number to get one of these. So that's the pros. Cons of it are, and these are, again, minor things. So the intakes are not precisely formed. This really should be more of like a bigger oval instead of a compressed oval like you see here. But again, that's something that it's really up to you as a model enthusiast and as an aviation enthusiast if that's going to bother you. It doesn't to me, largely because this is the only game in town. It's one thing to criticize certain details of a model when you have multiple options, like with F-16s or with F-14s or F-4s. With other ones, it's kind of like, well, here it is, and either you accept it as it is, or you break out your model construction kit and you buy one on Amazon or wherever, and you just build one yourself, and that's that. So this is one of those models where you either buy from Century or you build it yourself. So to me, it's not that big of a deal that it would have me running to my airbrush and glue drawer to build my own kit, because it's that out of sorts. So the other thing, this is again a minor element, is the bombardier navigator is supposed to sit somewhat shorter than the pilot is. The pilot sits higher in the seat, and in the model that's not quite captured. So again, that's a pretty minor thing, because most people aren't going to take a magnifying glass to your display and go, one person is the different height, and should be a different height than the other, and they're not. Like, you'd have to be a really, really enthusiastic A6 person to know. And if you have somebody who's flown the thing for real, they're probably going to have a lot more things to nitpick about than the seats. So if they're in there at that mood, hopefully they're in a better mood where they're not walking around your place with a magnifying glass. But hey, I'm not telling you how to live or what friends to make. So that's pretty much the only two major things. Some of the scoops, like this scoop right here, and then the one that's on the wing root right over here, you can't see it in this shot, but you can in some of the earlier footage. I would be happier if that came painted black from the factory, but that's not a big deal. I can just touch those up myself. But overall, I think it's a great model. One suggestion that I would like to see from Century, really all the rest of the manufacturers, is more releases with empty pylons, or pylons that you can configure to show nothing on them, because not every day are these tactical fighters and bombers going out with the full bomb load, right? In the box, you basically just get what you see, which is the two Shrike missiles, the one here and then the other on the other side, which are the anti-radiation Iron Hand missiles, and then you have just your 500-pound Snake Eyes there. So all things considered, I wish you could see this with like a blank or empty pylons like you see modeled on the Hobbymaster F-15E. That's in the commemorative colors, and because it's commemorative, it doesn't have weapons, which is why it has empty pylons. So that would have been nice to see, but all things considered, it's a good model, and if you can get one, I do highly recommend it. Unfortunately, getting one of these is not necessarily going to be easy or affordable. I do believe Century Wings has a release coming out in a different squadron's colors, but the preliminary photos do not look good. The nose is the wrong color, and they made some other mistakes with the stripes and whatnot. So we'll see. Maybe they get it right before it release. Hopefully, when it comes out, it looks good, and you all can buy it, and you're not having to fight like me to get one of these at some obscene price, or have to wait on international shipping for eons and eons to get it, like I did with my first A6. So at some point in the future, I'll throw my first A6 release on there. That one is the later version, which has like the targeting pod underneath here and some other later refinements, and it's also in low vis colors. So you'll see that on the channel at some point in the future. And thank you for watching to this point. Thank you for your patronage, those of you that are subscribed, and those of you who are not subscribers, please consider subscribing. That way you'll be made aware when I release a new video of the 1/72nd scale die-cast models in my collection. So thank you all once again for watching and your comments below, and have a good one.